All is not well at Ferrari. They're already trailing championship leaders Red Bull by 199 points, and their car looks to have taken a step backward. With potential signs that star driver Charles Leclerc could be looking at a move away, the question is, how did it get this bad and how do they fix it? Ferrari's return to form. In 2022, and after years in the doldrums, it looked as if Ferrari were finally back. Leclerc landed a statement win by winning the first race of the season and soon emerged as the lead contender for the title. But just as quickly as Ferrari rose, they came crashing back down again. Driver errors, strategy errors, reliability problems, and not developing quickly enough meant Red Bull soon overtook their Italian rivals and disappeared over the horizon. Such was the uncompetitiveness of the title race last season that Ferrari were offered the opportunity to focus on this year's car much sooner, which meant there was every expectation that they would take a step forward, but in reality, the reverse has happened. 2023, a false dawn. 2023 felt like the start of a new era for Ferrari. Longtime employee Mattia Binotto had resigned as team principal, and in his place came the experienced veteran Fred Vasseur. The Frenchman seemed like a perfect fit, as here was a man who had years in the F1 paddock, was a stabilizing influence at his previous team Sauber, and crucially had a great relationship with Charles Leclerc. But while the team principal role seemed in good hands, it soon became apparent that those around Vasseur may not be up to the job. With Binotto gone, Ferrari chiefs began meddling more in the sporting side than they had ever done before. CEO Benedetto Vigna and chairman John Elkann have been accused of visiting the Maranello factory and suggesting how the team should be run, much to the annoyance of some of the senior staff. Engineer David Sanchez, who had been with the team for over a decade, had enough and left to join McLaren. The recognisable face of Laurent Mekies is also following Sanchez out the door and will join AlphaTauri next season. It seems every time you hear something about what's going on inside the Maranello factory, it suggests an unmotivated and chaotic workspace, not one that's likely to produce results. Compare this then to the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes, where a unified vision begins from the top and an increased focus on keeping their staff happy is a mantra of both Christian Horner and Toto Wolff. While the Ferrari bigwigs continue to squabble, it could cost them a whole lot more than just a few race positions. Leclerc to leave. Charles Leclerc has proven himself to be a very patient man, but it seems even he has had enough. After a poor call by the team in Canada qualifying that meant he exited in Q2, Leclerc slammed the team for making the same mistake over and over again. And now at 25 years of age, there are very real questions over whether Leclerc's long-term future is at Ferrari. He's previously made it clear that his dream has always been to win a world title with Ferrari, but he's also incredibly competitive and may choose to go with his head over his heart in pursuit of that world title. If Leclerc does make himself available, there would be no end to interested teams, with Mercedes reportedly the most keen to acquire his services. Ferrari need to change, and change quickly, if they're going to keep hold of Leclerc, and a warning has already been handed out to the team principal. Could Fred Vasseur already be in trouble? Vasseur is only 8 races into his Ferrari career, but already there is an unbelievable amount of pressure on him. Having failed to deliver a win and just a single podium, people are beginning to question Vasseur's credentials at a top team, and there are reports of a split in the Ferrari camp, with those who support Vasseur and those who don't. Martin Brundle is a man who knows all about F1 politics, and he's already warned Vasseur that his days could be numbered. Brundle said, "He knows which way is up. It's been a revolving door there, and he's got to be careful he doesn't get caught up in it." But there was another issue that Brundle highlighted, which could block Ferrari's road to recovery. Does Italy location make it hard to attract F1 talent? Now, if you ever looked at a map of where F1 teams are based, you'd be shocked to see just how close most of them are. The vast majority of teams reside in the UK, and even more local than that, with the English county of Northamptonshire playing host to plenty of the big names. But there are of course a few outliers. Sauber is based in Switzerland, and their new partner Audi are in Germany. Alpine, while having a UK base, also operates in France. Red Bull's sister team AlphaTauri work out of Faenza, Italy, and Ferrari are in the northern Italian town of Maranello. Now, while Ferrari is a historic and prestigious team, this distance may prove to be a stumbling block when it comes to attracting the best talent, and that's a point that Brundle highlighted. He said, "I think Vasseur needs 4 or 5 more like him, to be honest." Brundle continued, "You're trying to attract world-class aerodynamicists and technicians and designers, but Aston Martin ramped up massively and have been hiring. Audi with Sauber are hiring. They're at a premium, these people, and they're not easy to get hold of and to get out of long-standing, long-term contracts, and then to get them to move to Italy with their family." While in the past, the prestige and success of Ferrari was enough to make people move across, that's not as strong as it once was, and there was one notable example of this. Newey refused Italy move. Adrian Newey has certainly worked for his fair share of prestigious teams. Before joining the newly formed Red Bull, Newey was a key part in the success of McLaren and Williams, but there is one notable exception from his CV, Ferrari. But it's not through the want of trying, with the Italian outfit twice trying to get their man in the 1990s. Newey said, "I've had discussions with Ferrari in the past. I've been very tempted because it's such a legendary brand. The time that was the most tempting would have been around 1993 and 1997 when I moved from Williams to McLaren. That was a very tough choice. At the time, my kids were young and I didn't know how they would settle in an Italian school. If I was to move to a team that was based in Italy, I would have to move to Italy with the family. Now at Red Bull, I've been involved in more or less since the start. Moving teams is always a huge workload to re-establish yourself and get the working practices. So honestly, if I was 20 years younger, maybe." But even now that his children have grown up and left the nest, Newey will still be hesitant to change his whole life just to join Ferrari. The team again tried to tempt F1's greatest mind away from Red Bull earlier this year, but ultimately came unstuck as he again chose to stay in the UK. It's a situation that also repeated itself with other Red Bull staff, as Ferrari tried to acquire senior Red Bull engineers Pierre Wache and Enrico Balbo, only for both of them to pass on the opportunity. So it seems Ferrari find themselves in a difficult spot of having to trust the workers they currently have, which is why they hope their next big upgrade will prove to be a turning point. New floor on its way. The SF23 is without doubt not one of the quickest cars on the grid. With Red Bull improving on their RB18, they were joined by the likes of Aston Martin and Mercedes, who have both made great strides and have more in the pipeline. Ferrari, meanwhile, find themselves looking over their shoulders at the likes of McLaren and Alpine, who are also making upgrades. But the Italian outfit has a plan of their own, and it's in regards to the floor, with reports that a major update is on its way. According to the Italian outlet Formula.Uno, Ferrari's head of chassis area, Enrico Cardil, has led an initiative to fit the SF23 with the major upgrade. The team tested the new design at their Fiorano this week, but it comes too soon for them to deploy it at the upcoming Austrian Grand Prix. Instead, they're targeting the British Grand Prix at Silverstone for when they plan to unleash their secret weapon. The reality is Ferrari desperately needs the new floor to be a success. Red Bull remains the gold standard in this year's field, but for the first time, it's looking like Mercedes and Aston Martin are upgrading quickly enough to finally challenge the Red Bull drivers. Ferrari needs to be part of that group if they're to continue to be considered future title contenders. If not, then they'll find themselves back in the doldrums once again, and their title drought will stretch on even further. That's it for today's video. Let us know where you think Ferrari will finish in this season's standings, and also make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a release here on the DRS Straight.